All right, so I'd like for everyone to think for a second for one time when you've hoped for something to happen or come true. So we did this as a group, and the first thing that came up was Christmas time. And it was either, Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, and everyone has hopefully experienced all the great feelings that go along during that time. You're nervous, you're excited, you're hoping for that present that you've wanted all year or whatever. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, pretty much, in that hope. And so, what is hope? That's what we're going to talk about. And it is different for every single person. Okay, you're going to have a bunch of different factors that are going into what you're hoping for. And we want to look at it on a spectrum, as far as from your individual to environmental. And as far as individual, you hope every day that, or some people hope every day that class is going to be canceled, or hope it's not going to rain. Things like that you think of every day, and a lot of people don't realize how often that they use that word or that they hope for in general. And other people, as far as physical therapy is concerned, patients too are going to be hoping that they get better sooner, or that their disease is cured. And we need to recognize and how to respond to those situations. When we get up to the society, we're talking more about hope as a group. So a good example is an improvement in mental health care and that kind of process. And then when we get up to environmental, we're talking more global. So hoping that, hoping for world peace, or ending for hunger, things like that, or cure for an incurable disease, things that we haven't realized yet. And there's also a difference between a superficial hope, such as hoping for a good present on Christmas, versus a deeper hope, such as your life success, and also faith. And faith is combined into hope because it involves trust and trusting someone or something. And I'm not going to get into too much in that. But so life success is that on that gray area, which is combining hope and expectation. And Tyler is going to expand more on that.
All right, you guys are going to be put on the spot now. I say the word hope. What do you guys think of? One word. Just throw it at me.
Faith.
Dreams.
Dreams, faith.
Success.
Success. Anything else?
Future.
All right. So it wasn't said, but I want to focus on expectation. Expectations. So that goes along with hope. Anyway, so as PTs, we're going to have expectations of ourselves. Our patients will have expectations of us and also of themselves. I wanted to kind of, as our project is on hope, I want to kind of explain the difference between expectation and hope. So I believe that expectations are very firm and rigid. You can't really change them. They are unable to change or adapt with events throughout your daily life. Once you have an expectation of yourself, you're stuck with it. If you don't achieve it, you're going to be feeling pretty bad about yourself. Also, they are limited by previous experiences, as you can't expect something that you haven't seen before or something that you've already been through. Now, oftentimes you hold on to these expectations, like I was saying earlier, and when you don't achieve them, they can have some negative outcomes. Now, on the other hand, hope. Hope is something that is flexible, it's moldable, it's something that adapts and changes throughout the events of your life over time. It can allow people to grow, and it's not limited by past experiences. You can always hope for more than what you know now, or just hope for something better than what you already have. Our desires and external environment all have implications on our hope. So hope doesn't die when it goes unmet. We can always adjust our hope to every scenario. Hope helps us keep moving forward. Now, what happens when your hope or expectations, when they go unmet? So hopelessness is something that we can see often as physical therapists through our patients. Hopelessness is defined as having no expectation of good or success, or not susceptible to a remedy or cure. Now, with that being said, on the other end of the spectrum is optimism, which we can see from our patients as well, and I'm sure you guys have already seen that as well. Optimism is often synonymous with hope, and it's actually defined as a ladder and a building block, a view of hope.
So that being said, because they are so closely related, for our purposes, we combined hope with optimism and use that as how to look at how it affects our general health. So for mental health, Imagine that you're having a very stressful day and absolutely nothing is going your way. I'm sure we're all familiar with that, and you kind of hit a breaking point. So you're very stressed out, you're very angry, you're upset, you could feel defeated, you could feel hopeless. At that point in time, do you actually feel good? Like, are you thinking happy thoughts and greeting your housemates with a pleasant, bubbly personality? I would probably say no. So there is an inverse relationship between optimism and the negative and depressive symptoms that we can experience. People who are consistently pessimistic are at a higher risk for depression and anxiety disorders. And as we all know, this has a bigger impact on your quality of life and your social functioning skills. So back to the situation when you're very stressed out because nothing's going your way. Physical symptoms of this: you have an increased blood pressure, increased heart rate. Your stress levels could be through the roof. So it's time for dinner, and you have two options. You can either go with the healthy quinoa salad with kale and veggies, or you can eat a bomber sub from Rogan's. I'd probably go with that one. But there is a direct relationship between optimism and physical health. If you're optimistic, you're more likely to make positive, healthy choices like diet and physical activity. So this correlates to a better physical well-being. There was a study looking at elderly adults between 65 and 85, and it showed that optimistic dispositions resulted in less probability of mortality as well as cardiovascular impairment. People who are more pessimistic are more inclined to complain of somatic symptoms like pain, headaches, and GI problems. Optimism is also really, really important for coping mechanisms and your quality of life. So people who are more optimistic are more likely to be flexible. They have adaptive strategies to deal with adverse events, stressful events, and so forth in your life. So therefore, they're not really emotionally affected by failure and disappointment, really. So it does affect your quality of life, and you're more, because it's so malleable, you have a better coping strategy in place. It was also shown that people who do have an optimistic outlook are more likely to have a faster clinical improvement rate from a hospitalization stay. So another thing to be wary of, though, is false hope. Colin will discuss a little bit more about that, but you don't want somebody to be too hopeful, and if they don't have the proper coping mechanisms in place, they can become they can experience too many disappointments, and this can increase their stress levels and therefore decrease their immune health. So it's important to recognize that.
All right, so who here has watched the show Friday Night Lights? Who here hopes that they can marry Tim Riggins someday? Right, see, exactly. We're not going to talk about Tim Riggins, sorry. But, so if you did watch that show, you remember Jason Street. Jason Street was a quarterback. He was a D1 recruit. He was one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. Senior year, he was playing football, and he was injured. He was paralyzed from the waist down. He was never going to be able to walk again. He was never going to be able to play football. Put yourself in that person's shoes, or a patient who's experienced such trauma like that, their shoes. How do you think that hope or hopelessness will affect this patient and their outcome? As Ellen said, there's been numerous studies that have been done that correlate hope and having hope to positive outcomes or positive prognosis, whereas hopelessness, negative, or maybe not as positive outcomes. So what about hope in PT? Like I said, hope is associated with positive outcomes. What are some strategies that we can, as PTs, to facilitate hope in our patients? They can be as simple as tailoring a patient's program or plan of care to their hobbies or function. And when you're doing this, you're allowing that patient to look forward to something, hoping that they can get to something. Even if maybe, for instance, a spinal cord patient will never walk again, but they love to play soccer, somehow you can incorporate it into their care. You can focus on family too. Bring family into the clinic. This gives them, a sense of hope there. Also, the number one thing is be positive. No matter how bad day you're having, when you go in there and you have a patient who probably is having a worse day. So you need to be positive. Finally, hope is malleable. It always changes. So you can have goals, and you may not meet these goals, but you can change these goals. And ultimately, you're hoping to achieve that goal. And lastly, physical therapists are on the front line to instill hope into patients. And I think that we need to remember that in every day and come up with a positive attitude and allow patients to feel this hope.